James, can you date me? The voice, a deep and steady baritone, sliced through the stunned silence of the studio. The kind that never breaks up. William, the reigning emperor of the silver screen, held his phone to his ear, but his eyes were locked on mine. Every spotlight in the venue seemed to converge on me, pinning me in place, turning my skin to fire. The phone in my pocket, which had just moments ago been the source of this public detonation, now felt like a live grenade against my thigh. My mind was a deafening white noise, a complete system crash. A few seconds ago, I was just another actor on a variety show, seething in quiet misery. Now, I was the unwilling star of a confession so audacious, so public, it had frozen an entire live broadcast in its tracks. This entire nightmare had begun just minutes earlier. A train wreck I saw coming but was powerless to stop. The show's host, ever the provocateur, had prompted my boyfriend, Matthew, to make a call to a special someone. A sly little smile played on Matthew's lips, a performance I knew all too well, as he dialed. "Hello, Ava," he'd cooed into the microphone, and the name alone sent a shockwave of shrieks through the live audience. Ava, the current it girl, the actress he was contractually obligated to be in a shippable romance with. The livestream comments exploded into a waterfall of text, a blur of hearts and declarations of undying love for their perfect couple. "I've never believed in a CP so hard." One comment flashed by. "This is real love," screamed another. I had to force the muscles in my face to remain placid, a mask of casual amusement. Inside, a bitter, acidic tide was rising in my throat. We had fought about this, a vicious, screaming match just that morning. I understood the game, the necessity of promoting a new drama. But Matthew had taken it beyond professionalism. He blurred the lines, feeding the fantasy with private outings with Ava, with late-night social media interactions, all while dismissing my feelings as simple jealousy. And now this public spectacle, this indulgent, saccharine phone call. "Nothing much," he was saying, his voice dripping with a tenderness he hadn't used with me in weeks. "I was just thinking of you. It's late, get some sleep. Don't work too hard." The crowd melted. Another wave of squeals and applause washed over the studio. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. This wasn't just marketing anymore. This was a choice. And in that moment, under the glare of 100 lights, I decided I was done. This relationship was over. "Well, Matthew and Ava are as sweet as ever," the host chirped, basking in the manufactured romance. "And now, let's turn to our beloved movie emperor, William. Who will you be calling tonight?" All eyes shifted. William, who had been a silent, imposing figure beside me, offered a ghost of a smile. It was a subtle, almost imperceptible shift of his features, but it held a strange intensity. He retrieved his phone, his movements economical and precise. He tapped the screen a few times, a fluid motion of his long fingers, and then he hit dial. And that's when my world tilted on its axis. A familiar, digital chime echoed in the sudden quiet. A vibration pulsed against my leg. My phone. My phone was ringing. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Every head, 100 pairs of eyes, swiveled in my direction. The camera zoomed in, and I felt like an insect under a magnifying glass. I swallowed, my throat suddenly as dry as desert sand. With trembling fingers, I retrieved the device and pressed the answer button. William's voice, rich and resonant, came through the phone speaker, a perfect echo of the man sitting right beside me. And then he spoke the words that shattered the night. "James, can you date me? The kind that never breaks up." His gaze was unwavering, a deep, dark pool that seemed to reflect the entire universe of stage lights. He looked so incredibly serious, as if he was proposing a law of physics rather than asking a question. My brain simply ceased to function. The studio, which had been eerily silent, erupted into a cataclysmic roar of disbelief and excitement. The Livestream barrage, which had been scrolling quickly for Matthew, now became a solid, unreadable wall of question marks. The entire platform froze, unable to handle the sudden surge of traffic. Is this part of the show? He looks dead serious. Someone tell me who James is. My God. My brain is short-circuiting. I'm writing the fanfiction already. I couldn't speak. My tongue felt thick and useless in my mouth. All the years of media training, all the practice in improvisation and quick thinking, had evaporated into thin air. There was only the heat of the lights and the weight of William's stare, an affectionate, patient gaze that only scrambled my thoughts further. As I desperately searched for a response, any response, the host finally jumped in, his voice loud and theatrical. "And I declare William's mission a success. The red team gets 20 points. On the massive screen behind us, a pre-recorded video began to play. It showed William, before the show started, being led into a dimly lit room. A mysterious figure handed him a card. The camera zoomed in on the card, and on it, written in bold letters, was the word mission, and beneath it, prank someone with a public confession. A wave of relieved laughter swept through the audience. The tension broke like a fever. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, my body slumping slightly. I turned to look at William and our eyes met. He hadn't looked away. Not once. For a fleeting, dizzying moment, I had the strangest sensation that despite the video, despite the laughter, he was still waiting for my answer. "William truly is the movie emperor," the host exclaimed, clapping him on the shoulder. That performance was so convincing. He had all of us fooled. I think I almost fell in love myself. "Look at poor James, he's still pale." Everyone laughed again. Matthew, his shock replaced by amusement, shook his head and applauded William's acting prowess. William gave me a small, almost apologetic nod. "Sorry," he murmured, his voice too low for the microphones to catch, before finally breaking his intense gaze. The show moved on, the chaotic interlude smoothed over with jokes and games. But a persistent, unnerving intuition lingered in the back of my mind. Felt too real. The look in his eyes. He had wanted an answer. After the show wrapped, I bypassed the ride home and went straight to my agency. My agent, Sophia, descended on me the moment I walked through the door. "James, what in the world was that with William tonight? Was that planned? Did you two coordinate this?" she demanded, her eyes wide. I managed a weary smile. "Do I look like someone who was in on the joke? You saw my face. I thought I was going to have a heart attack." Sophia tapped her chin, scrutinizing me. "It's just so bizarre. There were a dozen other, more famous people on that stage. If they wanted to create a publicity stunt, why pick you?" It was the same question rattling around in my own head. "Beats me," I mumbled. She waved a dismissive hand. "Well, whatever the reason, it worked. You're trending. Thanks to him, people know your name. Now go home, get some rest. I've got a few scripts from some directors. Take them with you, see if anything catches your eye." I nodded, gathered my things, and headed for the elevator. A quick check of my phone confirmed it. The hashtag William proposes to James was still clinging to the #1 spot on the trending list. My first time going viral, and it was for a prank confession. The absurdity of it all was almost comical. Shaking my head, I took the elevator down, walked to my apartment, and unlocked the door. The sight that greeted me froze the breath in my lungs. Pinned against the hallway wall, locked in a fervent, breathless kiss, were Matthew and Ava. The sound of the door opening made them spring apart, their faces flushed, their clothes slightly disheveled. "Sorry to interrupt," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I'm Matthew's roommate. Don't mind me. I was just on my way out. For good." Without another word, I strode into my bedroom. I moved with a strange, detached efficiency, yanking clothes from hangers, sweeping toiletries into a bag, stuffing everything into my largest suitcase. The entire process took less than 10 minutes. I dragged the suitcase back into the living room, past the two of them who were still standing there in awkward silence, and walked out the door. Once I was downstairs, on the cold pavement, I pulled out my phone and sent a single text to Matthew. "We're done." Then I blocked his number and started walking, with no destination in mind. I hadn't gotten a block away before he came running after me, grabbing my arm to stop me. "What are you doing?" he panted. I stared at him, my expression flat. "What does it look like I'm doing?" He looked guilty, flustered, unable to meet my eyes. He stammered for what felt like an eternity before finally spitting out the words. "James, I'm sorry. I don't think this is working. I pursued you, I know, but I just can't be in a relationship with a man. It's not right for me." The sheer audacity of his lie was breathtaking. I let out a short, sharp laugh. "Is that the best you can do? I can't be with a man? After months of being with a man? Save it, Matthew. Just be honest for once in your life. Tell me the truth. Tell me I have no connections, no money, and a temper you can't be bothered with. Tell me that being with me is a dead end for your career. Then tell me that Ava's father is the CEO of a major entertainment company, and that being with her is your golden ticket to the A-list. The simple math. Even an idiot could make that choice. So just admit it." His face cycled through a series of colors. Red with anger, pale with shock, and finally, a mottled gray of shame. He had no reply. I rolled my eyes, wrenched my arm from his grasp, and walked away without a backward glance. The relationship had been short, less than 2 months, and thankfully, we'd never even been truly intimate. It was a clean break, or so I thought. I stood at a busy intersection, my suitcase beside me, pulling out my phone to find a hotel. Just then, a sleek, black Porsche Cayenne screeched to a halt directly in front of me. The horn blared once. I looked up, startled, and my eyes met the calm, intense gaze of William. He glanced down at the suitcase at my feet, then back up at my face. His voice was a low rumble. "Get in." "I really shouldn't. I can just get a hotel," I stammered, feeling completely out of my depth. William was driving, his hands steady on the wheel, his expression unreadable. He didn't slow down, sailing right past the hotel I had just booked on my phone. "There's a script in the glove compartment," he said, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the engine. "Take it out. Have a look." Hesitantly, I opened the compartment and pulled out a thick stack of paper. The title on the cover page made my heart jump, Mountain and River Without Boundaries. It was a legendary Dan May novel, a suspense thriller with a massive, devoted fan base. I began to read, and after just a few pages, I was completely captivated. "I've accepted the lead role," William stated, his eyes still on the road. "I recommended you to the director for the other male lead. I believe your look, your entire aura, is a perfect match for the character." My hand, the one holding the script, began to tremble. The papers nearly slipped from my grasp. This wasn't just a big production. It was a potential career maker, a kingmaker project. And me? I was a nobody, an unknown actor who had never trended for anything real in his life. How could I possibly deserve to stand opposite a cinematic titan like William? But this was the kind of opportunity people in my industry would sell their souls for. Only a complete fool would say no. When's the audition?" I asked, my voice a mixture of breathless excitement and raw nerves. "There's no need for one," he said smoothly. "I sent the director clips of your performance as Benjamin in your last project. He was highly impressed with your skill. He's decided to cast you directly." I was stunned into silence. Benjamin was a minor role, with less than an hour of screen time in a show hardly anyone had watched. The idea that William had not only seen it but had remembered it and used it to champion me was almost unbelievable. "I asked you to stay at my place so we can get comfortable with each other," he continued, his tone all business. "It will help us build chemistry and get into character more quickly. If all goes as planned, your agent should be contacting you shortly." As if on cue, my phone began to buzz violently. It was Sophia. "James!" she shrieked, her voice so loud I was sure William could hear every word. "The producers of Mountain and River Without Boundaries want you. You're the other lead. With William. Get your head in the script. Start studying the character. You cannot afford to be out-acted by the movie emperor." I felt a hot blush creep up my neck. William glanced at me, the corner of his mouth twitching into a faint smile. "Don't worry," he said softly. "Your acting is excellent. You'll hold your own." His quiet confidence did little to calm the frantic beating of my heart. I had read the original novel. I knew what it contained. There were scenes. A lot of intense, emotional, and very physical scenes. Kissing scenes. The thought hit me like a physical blow. If we filmed this, I would have to kiss William. On camera. In front of a full crew. I had just ended my first and only relationship. A relationship where we hadn't even kissed. My first kiss was still unclaimed territory. And now, it seemed destined to be given to the most famous actor in the country. I was definitely not going to be able to handle this. I ended up following him home like a lost puppy. His apartment was a testament to understated luxury, and he had thoughtfully prepared everything I could possibly need, from a new toothbrush to a fresh set of pajamas. After I showered, I emerged to find him sitting on the sofa, clad in a plush bathrobe, already engrossed in the script. Droplets of water still clung to the skin of his chest, catching the warm lamplight and giving his sharp features an unexpected softness. My heart did a stupid little flip-flop. I couldn't help it. I was a complete sucker for a handsome face, and William was practically a work of art. From the line of his jaw to the tips of his toes, he was exactly my type. He heard me approach and looked up. Then, he picked up a towel from the arm of the sofa, walked over, and draped it over my head. He began to gently rub my hair dry. "Why didn't you use the hairdryer? You'll catch a cold." My head moved back and forth with the motion of his hands. "I'm used to it. My hair's short, it dries fast." When he was done, he pulled the towel away and surveyed my now tousled hair. He reached out, his fingers gently combing the strands back into place. He was so close I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. His exposed chest was right at my eye level, and the back of his wrist brushed against my forehead. The gesture felt impossibly intimate. I chanced to glance up at his face and saw a faint, lingering smile playing on his lips. "Now that you're clean," he said, his voice a low murmur, "let's run some lines. The sooner we start, the better, right?" Of course. He was a professional, a workaholic. For a moment, all those tabloid stories about actors rehearsing lines in each other's hotel rooms at 2 in the morning suddenly seemed plausible. I sat down beside him on the sofa, my heart still beating a little too fast, and picked up my copy of the script. "Let's start with scene 81, he suggested. "It's emotionally charged. A good test of our abilities." I flipped to the page. He was right. It was the first major climax of the story. The protagonist, Daniel, while investigating a crime, discovers a trail of evidence that leads directly to his partner and lover, Michael. He confronts him, but Michael's answers are evasive, leading to a massive, gut-wrenching argument. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and let myself fall into the character of Michael. When I opened them again, the man across from me was no longer William. He was Daniel. I channeled all of Michael's pain, his desperation, his helplessness into the lines. But Daniel was relentless, tearing down my every defense, his voice growing louder, his accusations more pointed. The scene culminated with Daniel shoving Michael down onto the sofa, pinning him there. "Tell me," William roared, his voice cracking with Daniel's anguish. "Did you do it?" I stared up at him, silent, fully immersed in Michael's despair. His acting was incredible, a force of nature that pulled me in completely. It was as if the character had walked straight off the page and was now breathing down my neck. He remained in character, hovering over me. The corners of his eyes flushed a furious red. And then his voice dropped to a whisper, a question that was not in the script. "Have you ever kissed anyone before?" My mind flashed to the next part of the scene. Daniel, torn apart by love and suspicion, finally snaps and kisses Michael with a desperate, punishing force. But before I could even process the thought, William's hand cupped my jaw, and his head descended, his lips pressing firmly against mine. My entire body went rigid. Wait a minute. We were actually doing this? On the first read-through, I was frozen solid, a statue carved from pure shock. My lips were sealed tight, my mind a roaring, chaotic void. After a moment that stretched into an eternity, William pulled back slightly, propping himself up on one arm. He reached out with his free hand and gently brushed his thumb across my lower lip. "Have you ever kissed anyone before?" he asked again, his voice now back to his own, low and husky. I could only shake my head, feeling a mortifying blush creep up my neck. That had been it. My first kiss. An amused chuckle escaped him. "Then I'll teach you," he murmured. "You have to open your mouth." As if in a trance, I parted my lips slightly. A darkness, a sudden intensity, flared in William's eyes. He lowered his head again. This time was different. It wasn't the simple, forceful press of the rehearsal. He was gentle, persuasive, his lips coaxing mine open. He pried my teeth apart, and suddenly our tongues were intertwined. A dance of heat and sensation that sent a jolt of electricity through my entire body. I was completely overwhelmed, my head tilting back as I involuntarily began to respond, kissing him back with a clumsy, inexperienced fervor. He moved closer, his warm palm sliding down to the small of my back, his touch sending a shiver down my spine. We had long since strayed from the script. This was no longer acting. I could feel the temperature of my own cheeks soaring. This was too close, too intimate, too dangerous. With a monumental effort, I summoned the last vestiges of my scattered sanity and placed a hand on his chest, gently pushing him back. I needed air. I needed to think. He relented, supporting himself on his arms, his gaze never leaving my face. It was warm, focused, and utterly intoxicating. "What is it?" he asked softly. "Do you not like it?" His eyes were like burning embers. I shook my head instinctively. He leaned in again, his lips brushing against my ear. "So," he whispered, his warm breath sending another cascade of shivers through me, "you're blushing, then?" His words were like a match to gasoline. My face erupted in flames. I wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear, but he gave me no quarter. He captured my hands, easily pinning them above my head, and then his mouth was on mine again. He kissed me for a long, long time, and somewhere in that endless, dizzying moment, I stopped fighting. I had no experience, no frame of reference for this, but I knew with a primal certainty what he wanted. He wanted to take me to bed. And in that moment, logic gave way to something far more elemental. We were two consenting adults. He was a movie star, impossibly handsome, successful, and apparently interested in me. Even if this was just a fleeting indulgence for him, what was I losing? In fact, by any measure, I was gaining. How many people fantasized about a night with William? As if reading my thoughts, he suddenly broke the kiss, stood up, and scooped me into his arms. He carried me into the darkened bedroom and gently laid me on the bed. He followed me down, his body covering mine like a warm blanket. He leaned close, his voice a seductive rasp against my ear. "May I?" The question, so polite and yet so loaded, hung in the air. It was almost absurd. The situation had escalated so far, and still he was asking for permission. Trembling, I lifted my arms, wrapped them around his neck, and pulled him down to me. The next morning, I woke to the feeling of sunlight streaming through a gap in the curtains, painting a bright stripe across the bed. I turned my head, my body aching in ways I'd never known, and saw that the pillow beside me was empty. My first thought was a cynical one. He left right after. Of course, all handsome men are scoundrels. I pushed myself up, using the nightstand for support, and my eyes fell on the slightly ajar drawer. Inside, I could see the spines of several photo albums. I paused. Then, compelled by a force I didn't understand, I opened the drawer and pulled them out. There were 5 of them. I opened the first one. My breath caught in my throat. The photograph was of me, a much younger me, in my high school uniform, laughing at something outside the frame. I flipped the page. Another picture of me studying in the library. Then another playing basketball. I went through all 5 albums, my hands shaking. They were all of me. Hundreds of photos, spanning from my teenage years to just a few months ago. Candid shots, stolen moments, documenting a life I never knew was being observed so closely. The corners of the pages were soft and slightly curled, a clear sign that someone had spent countless hours poring over them, tracing the images with their fingers. The truth hit me with the force of a physical blow. He wasn't just playing around. The confession on the variety show, it hadn't been a prank. He was serious. William liked me. He really liked me. He had liked me for years. I carefully stacked the albums and placed them back in the drawer, closing it gently. Just as I did, the bedroom door opened, and William walked in, carrying a tray. "Why are you on the floor barefoot?" he asked, a frown creasing his brow. He set the tray down, lifted me effortlessly from the floor, and placed me back on the bed, pulling the covers over my legs. I couldn't help but laugh, a genuine, joyful sound. "It's your fault," I teased, giving him a playful kick. "You have the stamina of a wild animal. I can barely walk." He caught my ankle, his grip firm but gentle, and used it to pull me closer. "If you can't walk, then don't," he said, his eyes glinting. "I'll carry you." I grinned, feeling bold and reckless. I reached up, hooked a finger under his chin, and tilted his face towards me. "So, sir," I said, my voice dropping into a theatrical purr, "how do you plan to keep me? Will it be with money, or with industry resources? I should warn you, I'm very expensive." A slow smile spread across his face. He leaned in, his nose brushing against mine. "Can't it just be with love?" I leaned forward and planted a loud, smacking kiss on his cheek. "Of course it can. A love affair with the movie emperor? Who am I to refuse such a generous offer?" He captured my hand, pulling me into his lap, and rested his head on my shoulder, his arms wrapping around me in a tight embrace. "I know everything about you," he murmured into my neck. "Yeah, I'll say," I quipped, tracing the sharp line of his shoulder blades through his shirt. "You're practically a stalker. Of course, you know everything." I shifted in his arms. "Well, let me tell you a few things you might not know from your photos. I love spicy food. I absolutely cannot stand cilantro. It must be banished from our kitchen. My favorite congee is with century egg and pork. And under no circumstances should there ever be sugar in my scrambled eggs with tomatoes." The more I spoke, the tighter his arms held me. "Hey," I poked his side. "Are you trying to suffocate your brand new boyfriend?" He loosened his grip, his eyes filled with a universe of unspoken emotions, the weight of a love that had been hidden and nurtured in silence for a decade. I sat up on his lap and gently kissed his eyelids. "Boyfriend," I said softly, "let's establish some ground rules. 1. You can have kissing scenes in your future roles, but absolutely no bed scenes. 2. During promotional periods, you can interact with your co-stars, but no over-the-top CP marketing. You have to remember at all times that you are a taken man. And 3. I never got to finish my third rule. William sealed my lips with his own, effectively shutting me up. And somehow, the kiss quickly spiraled out of control, and my poor, aching back was subjected to another round of vigorous activity. Filming for Mountain and River Without Boundaries began, and to my surprise, it was a dream. The director was brilliant, explaining every scene with meticulous detail. Thanks to my countless rehearsals with William at home, I knew my lines and my character inside and out. His presence beside me was a constant source of support, and I found my rhythm quickly, requiring very few retakes. "James, my boy," the director said one day, patting his round belly with satisfaction. "I knew I made the right choice. No one on earth could play Michael better than you." Of course, a production of this magnitude attracted photographers like sharks to blood. Despite the best efforts of our security, sneaky long-lens photos from the nearby hills inevitably found their way online. One such photo from a particularly intense scene we had been filming went viral. In it, William had me pinned against a wall, his face inches from mine. The angle made it look like a brutally forceful kiss, and the internet exploded. I was scrolling through the comments, feeling a strange mix of amusement and absurdity, when another topic suddenly rocketed to the top of the trending list. Matthew and Ava official. I clicked on it. It was a Weibo post, a professionally shot photo of them looking blissfully in love, with a caption announcing their relationship. Before I could read more, William snatched the phone from my hand. "Tis Kay," he said, his voice laced with annoyance, looking at another man's social media right in front of me. "Are you that interested?" I laughed and grabbed the phone back. "Jealous much? It's the top trending topic. I'm just being curious." I pulled him down onto the sofa beside me. "I'm not surprised they went public, but the timing is weird, isn't it? Matthew has another drama coming out soon. Won't this hurt its promotion?" William ruffled my hair. "Everything Matthew does is a calculated risk. You and I are the leads in the most anticipated drama of the year. He couldn't stand by and watch you eclipse him." Announcing his relationship with a powerful heiress now does two things. It steals some of our thunder, and it solidifies his own position. To him, sacrificing one drama is a small price to pay. I nodded, processing his words. Seeing me lost in thought, William suddenly crossed his arms, let out a huff and turned away, staring at the wall with a thunderous expression. I nudged him. He ignored me. I couldn't help but laugh. I leaned over and tickled his chin. "What's all this about? Are we feeling jealous?" He let out a petulant snort and refused to look at me. I tried to turn his head, but he stubbornly resisted. "Oh no, you don't," I said, deciding to take matters into my own hands. I climbed onto his lap, straddling him, and pinned him against the back of the sofa. I grabbed his face with both hands and kissed him hard. For a moment, I was in control, but soon enough, the tables turned, and he was the one dominating the kiss. I struggled to push him away, gasping for air. "No biting. No marks. I have to film tomorrow." My protests were quickly muffled, dissolving into a series of broken moans. The months of filming flew by in a blur of intense work and stolen moments of passion. At the wrap party, the director pulled me aside, his face beaming. "You've got a gift, James," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "Your future is limitless. Just keep working hard, and you'll reach the very top." I thanked him profusely, my heart swelling with gratitude. Later that night, Sophia found me. "Come on, I'll give you a ride home. You still haven't even told me where you're living these days." Just as I was about to awkwardly explain, William appeared at my side. "No need," he said, his voice calm and clear. "I'll take him home." He then took my hand, lacing his fingers through mine, and dropped a bombshell. "I'm his boyfriend. We live together." Sophia's jaw dropped. What did you just say?" she squeaked, her professional composure completely deserting her. The next few months were a blissful period of quiet domesticity. But the peace was shattered when William had to fly to North City for a week to shoot a commercial. One night, while scrolling through my phone in our empty bed, my heart sank. A new trending topic: William scandal. It was a grainy photo of him having dinner with a young actress. I trusted him, but I knew how these things worked. Even a baseless rumor could do damage. 10 minutes later, a new post appeared from William's official account. The caption was 2 words: "Just work." The accompanying photo was from the same restaurant, but this time it was a wide shot showing his manager, his assistant, and a half-dozen other people at the table. My phone buzzed with a message from him. "Don't worry. It's nothing. Working late tonight. Go to sleep. Good night." Suddenly, an overwhelming wave of longing washed over me. I missed him, I missed him so much it was a physical ache. Without a second thought, I opened a travel app and booked the first flight to North City for the following morning. The winter wind in North City was a blade against my skin. I bundled up in a thick coat, mask, and sunglasses, and waited in a spot I knew he'd have to pass on his way back to the hotel. After what felt like an eternity, I saw his familiar silhouette approaching. I jumped out from behind a corner, striking a dramatic pose. "Stick him up," I shouted. William froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. His manager and assistant behind him, bless their souls, immediately understood. The manager said loudly, "I'm suddenly starving for some kebabs." "Me too," the assistant chimed in. "And a foot massage. Let's go." They scurried away, leaving us alone. I pulled down my mask. "So? Surprised?" He swallowed hard, then grabbed my arm and pulled me into a deserted alleyway. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice tight with a mixture of shock and something else. "Nothing much," I said, a grin spreading across my face. "I just kinda miss." He cut me off, his mouth crashing down on mine. I wrapped my arms around his waist, kissing him back with all the pent-up longing of the past week. It was desperate and hungry and perfect. But suddenly, he pulled away and stood in front of me, his body tense. "Who's there?" he called out sharply into the darkness. I peeked around him just in time to see a shadowy figure scrambling away. "Who was that?" I whispered. "Did they get a picture?" "I don't know," he said, shaking his head. "It's fine. It's freezing out here. Let's go back." Back in the warmth of his hotel room, the mystery was solved. My phone buzzed with a string of notifications. It was Matthew, a long, vitriolic tirade questioning my morals, accusing me of selling my body for resources, of being shameless. "I know who that was," I sighed, handing the phone to William. He scanned the messages, his expression hardening. Without a word, he blocked the number. The world went quiet. "Why are you still keeping your ex's contact information?" he asked, his voice dangerously low. "Saving it for a special occasion?" "I forgot to delete it," I said, poking his chiseled abdomen. "And he's not even my ex. You got my first kiss, remember?" My hands started to wander, but he caught them, his eyes flashing at, "Oh, no touching? So cruel. After I came all this way just to see you." I feigned a dramatic pout, then launched myself at him, tackling him onto the sofa. In the ensuing playful struggle, he flipped the light switch off. In the darkness, the only sounds were our ragged breaths and passionate kisses, our bodies speaking a language of love and longing that needed no words. Time flew. Mountain and River Without Boundaries finally premiered. I was a nervous wreck, terrified of disappointing the legions of fans who cherished the original novel. "Don't be nervous," William soothed, stroking my hair as we sat down to watch the first episode. "You were amazing." He was right. The show wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural phenomenon. And overnight, I became a star. My Weibo followers multiplied by the million. Fanettes of our scenes were everywhere. The fans, with their forensic-level attention to detail, analyzed every glance, every touch between William and me during promotional events, creating a mountain of evidence that their CP was real. Little did they know, their wildest theories were closer to the truth than they could ever imagine. My commercial value exploded. Scripts from top directors and offers from major brands flooded my agent's office. I was on top of the world. And that's when the bomb dropped. A headline, stark and vicious, spread across the internet like wildfire, designed to destroy everything I had built. Exposed. James is nothing more than movie Emperor William's kept man. I clicked on the link, and my blood ran cold. There, for the entire world to see, was a blurry, incriminating photo of William and me, locked in that passionate kiss in the dark alleyway in North City. Just as I was reaching the pinnacle of my career, a devastating accusation threatened to shatter everything. The carefully constructed wall between my private life and my public persona had been violently torn down. Do you think their love is strong enough to survive a public scandal? Or will Matthew's revenge tear them apart? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you're as invested in James and William's story as I am, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more.